Now, didn't you just have this done on the other shoulder a couple weeks ago?
Well, I did, but the other shoulder was not as major as this one. The other shoulder was just a minor thing, and I was back to full speed, and my right shoulder just kept bothering me, and I finally said, hey, I got to get it done.
So how does this affect your off-season program? When will you be able to start lifting and running and all that kind of stuff?
Well, usually I work out 6 days a week, and with this, I'm going to have to slow it down a little bit, give it a little time to heal, because with this kind of deal, you don't want to rush it. But most guys, most offensive and defensive linemen lift 6 days a week, different body parts every day, trying to get themselves grooved into the season. So I'll take a little bit of time off, and I'll hit it back hard, and I should be ready by the time training camp comes around.
Well, you have to deal with Jerry Attaway at all? Will he get you in the pool workout?
Jerry's House of Horrors. Jerry is notorious for putting guys through tough workouts. He's one of the best in the league. It's a pleasure to work with him because he brings guys around so quickly. And I assume that I'll take a couple weeks off, and then I'll get in with Jerry later on in maybe June.
Well, you know, we're all pulling for you, especially me.
Well, hopefully we can get it going. You know, I know the guy's pumping the most is Joe Montana and get somebody fit.
That's right.
To take for him.
Now, last year there were a lot of changes up front, and most of those ideas came from George Seifert. And I know there was a lot of people that didn't really care for the changes that went on up front there, moving you over to center during training camp, and then over to finally to guard, where you played the whole season. But have you heard anything about this year? I know we just got we got Roy Foster. We drafted a couple of guys. Have you heard anything about what position you'll be playing this year?
No, I really haven't heard, but you know, I've expressed to the 49ers that they moved me from tackle. I played tackle the first 3 years I was here, and they moved me to guard for last season. And I really didn't like the move at first. It was uncomfortable for me. It was a new learning experience. I'd established myself as a pretty good right tackle in the league, and you know, they moved me, but now once they moved me, I like the guard position, and I've expressed to the 49ers that I'd like to play that guard position. Now, they brought in Roy Foster, who's an excellent player out of Miami, has been for many years, and I assume his natural position is left guard, while Guy McIntyre's a Pro Bowl player there. It really all depends on what Bubba Paris does. If Bubba Paris comes in light and is able to play that left tackle position, then things will probably stay the same way with Roy Foster backing up or contending for a starting job somewhere along. If Bubba Paris comes in heavy and can't do it, then they might have to move Steve Wallace back and move me to right tackle and have Roy Foster play right guard. That's something I hope doesn't happen, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Well, you know, in my opinion, you're probably right in line to be going to the Pro Bowl at that guard position, and aren't there a couple, there's some real good tackles out there in the league, aren't there?
Well, tackle is usually the best position in offensive line. The best athletes play that right and left tackle because it's such a difficult position, because you have to pass block on an individual basis the whole time. As a guard, you really don't have to do that. You have some help from the center. And my size and my stature, it makes me a more natural guard in the NFL. To play the tackle, I was just doing it based on athletic ability, being able to do it a pretty good job at it, but certainly not Pro Bowl level. On that guard, I'd have an opportunity to make it. And hopefully the coaches will look at that and realize that and leave me in the same position.
Yeah. Last year in training camp, you played just about every position in the line. And this year going into training camp, do you anticipate, I mean, you want to stick at that guard position and that's it?
Yeah, because, you know, if you move around a lot, it helps your versatility. It shows other teams, and it shows your team that you're a team player and that you can change positions in a heartbeat. But it really doesn't help you become a better football player. Everybody looks at offensive linemen, and the casual fan doesn't really know what an offensive lineman does. But you have to stay in really one position and work at it for 4 or 5 weeks in training camp, play those 4 or 5 preseason games, and really start to get comfortable at it before you can really go out and perform in the regular season.
I know going up to training camp, I used to, you know, it was hard work at training camp, but it was the satisfaction of working hard and then being able to get a little time off at night. Do you enjoy training camp?
I do enjoy training camp. I was kind of like you. I always felt like training camp was going to get me ready for the regular season, and that I was not going to go up there and just kind of loaf through it and just kind of just make it. And then all of a sudden the season would come, because I always felt like if I wasn't getting any better out there, I shouldn't be out there at all. And then, you know, when the day's over, it is a nice feeling to be able to get some time off at night and hang out with your buddies. And but training camp is way too long.
I
mean, you know,
I agree.
5 weeks is a long time up in the heat of Rockland, California. It's 95 degrees at 7 o'clock in the morning there, and you know, and that's very difficult. It's very mentally draining.
Yeah, I think it helps the 49ers, though, because when they come back down from Rockham, they're really in good shape and ready to take on the opponents. And going through those 5 weeks, I think gets you ready for those guys that you have to go against. And there's some pretty good ones in the league. Who do you think is probably the best couple guys that you have to face all year?
Well, certainly the best. The guys that you hear about a lot are usually the best. Guys like Lawrence Taylor. But the guy that really sticks out in my mind is a guy like Dwight, plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's a guy that's got speed like Jerry Rice, and has got the power of Kevin Fagan or of Lawrence Taylor. He's just got tremendous upfield strength. And those are the guys that you really get nervous about blocking. And those are the guys that usually beat you a couple of times and sack the quarterback on you. He deserves everything, all the recognition he gets. He's a fair player. He doesn't talk a lot of crap. He does a good job out there, and he's a pleasure to play against because it really challenges you to bring your game up to the highest level.
All right, Harris, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after this. If you've just joined us, we're here with Harris Martin. Harris, there's been some major changes on the squad this year. Ronnie Lott's gone to the Raiders. Roger Craig's gone down to the Raiders. Matt Millen's to Washington. We're losing Eric Wright, Keena Turner, Mike Wilson. That's a major impact, but did you see the 49ers overcoming that?
Oh, yeah, certainly. Anytime you have a guy like Jerry Rice or Joe Montana on your team, you're going to win 8 ball games easily. It's up to the rest of us to pick up the slack from what those guys left off. Certainly, guys like Ronnie and Roger are going to be missed, but really guys that are inspirational also were guys like Mike Wilson, who played here for many years, has 4 Super Bowl rings. Eric Wright played with a lot of injuries. A lot of guys looked up to him. Certainly, Keena Turner was really the unspoken leader of our defense. And if we can get through training camp and get through the first couple of games and do well, I think we'd be all right.
Yeah, I know we've made some moves with Plan B, and I thought we had a pretty good draft. Have you been able to keep up with that? I know we got a couple of offensive linemen, Boatswain and Scott Bowles, I think, from
right.
Texas or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard that they're pretty decent players that they're going to need some time to develop. Certainly coming into the NFL is a difficult transition from the college. You have to learn how to pass block, you have to learn the scheme, you have to learn how to work in the 49er offense. And I don't think that they're anticipating them coming in and immediately helping, but I feel like they want them to come in and help in later years. I know that the guy from Louisville, the Washington kid, is going to be a pretty good ball player, and hopefully Ricky Waters will come in and help us out as a running back.
Yeah. Do you see any specific areas that the 49ers should be concerned with?
Well, I think, the position I'm in, offensive line, we took a lot of flack last year. Certainly our running game wasn't up to par. We were excellent pass blockers, but we're going to have to gel in order to be competitive this year, because last year we kind of got away with being mediocre. Joe kind of let us do a lot of things, and this year the offensive line is going to have to take it upon themselves to get a little bit better.
Now, speaking of Joe, what's this deal with the are you ready for some football, this Monday night football theme song?
Well,
and I know there's something between you and Joe and that song, and I don't know what it is.
Well, usually I'm like the Mr. Intensity in the locker room, and usually Mr. Joe is like Mr. Loose in the locker room. And now every time we play on Monday nights, they play that Willie Nelson song, and he usually gets in my face and sings it, and he's probably got the worst voice of anybody I've ever met. So it usually loosens me up a little bit. I probably need a little bit more of that. If I could play as loose as Joe, I'd be very happy.
Yeah. So now as you go through your career, you played for how many years now?
This will be my 5th year.
Your 5th year. And do you have specific goals in mind that you're trying to achieve before you'll be around here a long, long time, barring injuries?
Right. Well, I've always been a really pretty goal-oriented person. In college, I always wanted to be an All-American. I always wanted to do well in school. And when I got to the professional level, certainly I wanted to be known as an All-Pro. But I guess most importantly, you want to look back on your career as a 49er and say, hey, I played with the team for many years. I was well treated, and I treated them well back. I played hurt. I played in a couple of Super Bowls, and you just want to be able to look at the mirror at the end of your career and say, "Hey, I gave it all I got," and hopefully they appreciate it.
Now I know that you're into horse racing a little bit,
right.
And I know you hang around and go to some races with Mr. DeBartolo's father.
That's correct.
Ed Sr.
Right.
And are you going to the Kentucky Derby this weekend?
No, unfortunately, we got a minicamp this weekend, so I'm not going to make it.
Right.
But I'll be watching.
Do you have any predictions for that?
I'm going to have to go with Fly So Free. That's going to be the horse to win. I'm a big sports fan in general. I watch a lot of hockey, a lot of basketball, baseball. Growing up, as a kid, I was a big sportsman, and really coming out here, I've just finally been introduced to horse racing.
Yeah. Well, we're not allowed to give any tips on football, but I guess horse racing is all right.
Right. Well, any tip that you get is usually a bad tip in horse racing. That's what I've always learned. So don't believe a word I say.
Right. So in years to come from now, what would you want to be said about Harris Barton?
Well, I'd like people to look back and say Harris Barton was intense. He was giving to the community. He was a good football player. And if people can say that, then I believe that I was successful in my career as an NFL football player.
All right, great. Well, Harris, thanks for joining us.
My
I appreciate
pleasure.
you being here.
My pleasure.
And we'll be right back with Jerry Attaway. He's taking us behind the scenes and showing us how he keeps those 49ers strong. We're back, and joining us now is the strength and conditioning coach of the 49ers, Jerry Attaway. What does it mean to be a strength and conditioning coach? I mean, what do you have to do to get these guys going?
It can be anything. I mean, there's people that have parts of their contracts for workouts. There's other people that are just highly motivated and they're here all the time. No one, as you know, in this business has to be here in the off season unless they have a special clause in their contract. Right. So it's bottom line is just try to get the people that are around or the people that live in other cities and give them whatever help you can, because it's their choice. Yeah. They're not required to come see me.
I know it's tough for these guys to be self-motivated, and I know when they're coming in here, they're looking for a little help, and there's a workout thing that you kind of put them through. Can you kind of describe that? Because I've been through it one time, and I never wanted to go through it again.
You're talking about on the field?
Yeah.
Or? Well, you know, most people, when you think of workouts, you go out and run a certain number of 220s or 880s or 100-yard dashes or 40-yard dashes, and what we try to do is make all of the things that they do somewhat related to the skills that it takes for them to perform in their position. So it's sort of a carnival. We hardly ever run in a straight line. We've got ball machines. If we want a linebacker, say, to run a sprint of some kind, we'll have him start out in a back pedal, which he normally would do. He'd turn and run. At the end of the run, we'd throw a ball out so he has to catch it. Mm-hmm. So we try to basically acclimatize them to what they do to make a living.
Now, I know you're heavily involved with the rehabilitation, as are the trainers. I know that personally because my last year with the 49ers, I couldn't have made it on the team if you hadn't been there to help me get through that workout. But what's your evaluation of it's come a long way from just going in the training room, getting a little treatment. Now there's the pool workout that you put me through. There's a lot more to it.
Well, the trainers and the doctors, dealt with you when you first had your injury, and at a certain point, everybody recovers to a spot where they're mobile, but they can't go perform the skills it takes for them to go back into play. And so, instead of letting people just sit around, what we try to do is use water as a medium that they can run and work in, that brings them around to where they can do skills that are similar to what they're doing, but there's no impact. So the pool was just a stage in bringing you from your injury to where, remember, we got to a point where we would go in the pool and then we'd go a little bit on land, and we kept adding more and more to the land. It's just to try to bring you back to what it takes for your skills to get back into play.
Yeah. Jerry, besides the strength and conditioning part of it, I know in your mind nutrition plays a big part in the day-to-day lives of a player, and even to the point where the proper nutrition can help a guy play better. Is that pretty much your thoughts on it?
Well, yes, but the one thing that you have to remember about professional athletes or professional football players is that they basically eat the same way that the normal American eats. They eat high fats, lots of fast foods, low carbohydrates, high refined sugars. And what people don't stop and think about is the fact that there's 4 different kinds of fuels that you can eat: carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and alcohol. And if you have a car that goes 100 miles an hour on gasoline and put diesel in it, it might run, but it won't go 100. It may even work so hard that it overheats. Well, performance is controlled the same way. When you're working extremely hard, if you don't have the right fuels, you can't reach the right level of muscle contraction or just optimum performance. So nutrition is an extremely important thing. Probably over the last 10, 15 years, the biggest changes that I've seen that have taken place in people's performance have been when they've changed their nutritional habits.
Well, thanks for joining us, Jerry, and I know you just recently got married, and I wanted to congratulate you on that,
Thanks.
and thanks for joining us. Hope you'll be back with us.
Thanks.
We'll be right back after this. Now it's time when we select a question sent in by one of our viewers addressed to their favorite member of the 49ers. This week's question is from Paul Angelo of Campbell, California, and Paul asks Coach Mike Holmgren,
Coach Holmgren, being an NFL coach is a high-tension job. How do you manage your stress levels and keep you cool?
Well, Paul, it's an interesting question. I think most people in every profession have stress they have to deal with. In the coaching profession, our stress kind of reaches a peak on Sunday. We put in a lot of time and effort on our preparation. There's a lot at stake in winning and losing the games. But the way I deal with it is through our preparation, whether it's talking about preparing the team or the other assistant coaches. We feel that if we prepare properly, then dealing with the stress on Sunday in some ways will take care of itself. But thank you very much for the question.
If you'd like to have your question answered, send us a videotape with your name, address, and telephone number along with your question to The Dwight Clark Show. If your question is selected, Dwight will send you a free autographed Dwight Clark Show t-shirt as a gift. Paul, yours is on the way.
I'd like to thank Harris Barton for being a guest on our show, and also Jerry Attaway for his behind-the-scenes look at how he keeps the 49ers strong. Most of all, thank you for joining us, and until next time, I'm Dwight Clark. See you soon.